Welcome everyone to Always on CXEX, a show for contact center and IT leaders. Between helping support your contact center reps, your customers, and the tech that makes your contact center function, you're relied upon quite a lot. So in this show, we talk through how you can continuously improve your customer experience, your agent experience, and everything in between. If you're ready to find the next strategy to keep your customer and employee experience always on, let's get into this episode. So today we have Gidi Adlersberg, Director of Voca Conversational Interaction Center here at AudioCodes, who will chat with us today about all things Microsoft Azure and how it relates to a Microsoft Teams contact center. Gidi, welcome back to the show, sir. I believe you're our first guest and back around for a second turn. I think that was almost a year ago, but it's good to see you. Good to have you back.
Yeah, happy to be here, Josh. And true story, I remember us doing the first episode. I think Always On has grown a lot since. So yeah, very excited to be here for the second time.
Yes, sir. Glad to have you. So to kick it off, we're talking about Azure here, but I wanted to get a little bit deeper into the details and how it relates to the contact center. What would you say is the relevance of Azure when associated with the contact center?
Right. So I mean, when we talk about different options of where you would build your CCaaS solution out of, you could look at Azure as another potential ecosystem, right? In that sense, it's no different potentially than any other server farm, if you will, or other cloud environment. But, and that's the big but, when you talk about UCaaS and CCaaS consolidation, right? And when you talk about coupling UCaaS with a customer experience solution, that's where the real power of Azure comes into play, right? We've been talking a lot in the past, year and even more about the power of connecting between UCaaS and contact center, or namely, something like Microsoft Teams, the largest UCaaS ecosystem out there with, various contact center solutions. And we've talked about, a magnitude of use cases that this consolidation unfolds, right? And how, so many users out there in different organizations actually could really benefit from contact center capabilities. They just don't necessarily know that it's called contact center. When you select Azure as kind of your foundation for CCaaS, that also means that, and I guess that's something that we'll be talking about more of in this episode. What you're doing as part of that is you're essentially enabling your CCaaS solution a much tighter connection into Teams and into all the wonderful benefits and goodies that Azure brings to the CX space. So definitely much more than just another cloud platform when we look at it from again from the angle of coupling of something like Microsoft Teams and a customer experience solution.
Yeah, absolutely. I like your definition there of calling it goodies. There's definitely lots lots to offer within Azure.
Much of
There's one
that.
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
There's one thing you mentioned, made quick note of here, is you talked about some of the other departments in the organization that can benefit from the contact center. And I know we've had a couple conversations around that, and we've seen it play out a little bit more in the market as well. But is there maybe like what would you say are like three other departments beside that main service desk that can benefit from using contact center solution?
Yeah, I love this topic, Josh, because the examples are really endless, right? And it's really like, you're giving this massive set of advanced capabilities to departments out there in the enterprise that could not have accessed it before. The use cases that departments come up for contact center is, we are always surprised more and more with each and every new department that we bring contact center to. We are quite amazed by, to what extent they're taking very basic, capabilities that we in CX consider basic, but for these new departments are really a game changer. So I'll
Mhm.
give you some of my favorite examples. By far my favorite one is what something like reporting does to a sales team, right? So
Mhm.
there are so many enterprises out there and sales teams out there that still make uh, sporadic calls, right? You have salespeople that are making calls from their mobile, from their Teams client, and so on. But whenever we want to get some analytics on like what people are calling the sales team, what are they calling about, what regions are the most busy, who are the most active salespeople that are actually taking those calls, how long do these calls take, how many calls did we have into the sales team this month compared to last month, can we associate it with a marketing campaign we did, and so on. I mean, these analytics are so insightful and so important for sales teams out there. And just by giving this reporting, historical or real time, all of a sudden you get all these super interesting analytics for sales.
Mhm.
um, Maybe another example is, of course, we keep talking in contact center, the traditional contact center, we talk about intelligent routing or skill-based routing. When you say that to, like, let's say an HR department manager, it means nothing to them, right? You tell them, hey, do you need skill-based routing? They're like, what? Like, what did you even say? But then when you ask them, hey, Mr. Mrs., HR manager, do you need a better way to bring a call of a random caller into your department? Do you need a better way to aim that call into a specific person in your team? The answer is going to be yes all day long, right? So the impact of, okay, if you're a candidate, you need to speak with this subset of HR members. But if you're a new manager in the company, probably you need different people, different area within the department. So the ability to bring a call into the right person in HR, in IT help desk, and so on is huge. Um, then a third example, just because you ask for three, and it's always nice to give three examples. Um, I always love to also think about the 24/7 departments, and these
Okay.
can be actually really small ones. So think about a travel desk. Think about the reception desks. Think about the
Mhm.
security team, right? The security team needs to be available 24/7. What happens when a call comes in at 3 a.m.? Do we need to wake someone up for that call because there's, I don't know, there's an emergency happening and someone needs to wake up? Or is it just maybe a less urgent call that's made and it can wait for later? So that's again where you can use some basic automation on the way in, maybe a simple IVA on the way in that can check how urgent is that call, and by the urgent level of urgency, decide, do we need to wake someone up, do we need to ring someone's mobile, whose mobile should it be, and so on. So many examples. I mean, I could go on forever, but
Yeah. I think the 24/7 is a great example when you're working in a global organization as well. It might be that in HQ, whether that's a different part of the world, it's their weekend or their nighttime, but it's a working day for someone else on the opposite side of the world. So being able to reach someone also during that time is very important. I like the first one you mentioned about the sales department reporting. In an episode we had recently with Marie, she dove in great detail about how sales can benefit from a contact center, especially when you'll see a lot of times the contact center and customer success is also tied in with sometimes with a sales objective or some type of sales quota. So if you're able to have the same type of solution that can do both for that team, definitely a game changer. Thank you. That was very good.
yeah, for
Um,
sure, sure. I can
want to
go on
zoom.
forever, but yeah, I guess we should move to the next one. So
Could be here all day. um, All right, so I want to zoom out from Azure a little bit and kind of look at the wider Microsoft ecosystem. So, Enterprise Connect, Microsoft announced the Queues app, and then just last week or the week before, they announced the Dynamics 365 Contact Center. Could you maybe talk about how does that play into the wider Microsoft Contact Center strategy?
Yeah, that, these days, Josh, this is actually probably one of the more popular topics, out there in the, I'll call it the Microsoft CX community.
Mhm.
The Qs app, they announced it in last Enterprise Connect, so March 24. And then the upgrades to the Dynamics Contact Center, those were announced just last week, and we get the amount of questions and like this became probably one of the most popular conversation out there these days. um, I'll say this, it's super interesting to see a giant, or I should say not a giant but the giant, the tech giant of the tech space, Microsoft, how they're making their way into the CX area, right? Because when we think about customer experience and when we think about popular brands, that professionals out there would, brands that would come up to their minds, probably Microsoft is not going to be, if you ask the average professional, what are the top three brands in customer experience, Microsoft is not going to be one of those three. So it's very interesting to look at how the tech giant Microsoft makes its way into that pack. Now, the double play, I'll call it the double play of growing the team's native experience on the one hand, but on the other hand also growing this flagship enterprise grade solution Dynamics,
Mhm.
is a super interesting play in my opinion. So basically, if we zoom out and we look at it, from kind of a high level point of view, what it seems like Microsoft is doing is, first of all, definitely with the Teams native capabilities and namely with the Queues app, definitely wanting to provide a robust, simple, easy to consume solution for
Mhm.
those, let's call them, 30 agents or less kind of desks that really just need super basic, basic routing, basic queuing, basic reporting capabilities, and they're fine, right? So
Yeah.
the Queues app is Microsoft's answer to these kind of users. Then if we switch to the other end of the spectrum with Dynamics 365, what they've announced recently, the decoupling of the Dynamics CRM from the Dynamics Contact Center, opening it to any CRM that's out there, and also a whole bunch of Copilot
Mhm.
that now made its way into to Dynamics 365 Contact Center. I would say this is kind of Microsoft's answer to, let's call it the Amazon Connect like solutions, which are really for the huge, like if we said that the Teams queues is for 30 agents and less, I would say that the Dynamics Contact Center is for a good few thousands of agents and more. Okay, so it's that very massive, very modular, very
Mhm.
capable ecosystem that takes quite a lot of integration and implementation work to get going. But once you get it going, it can definitely support those massive, huge contact centers of thousands and thousands of agents. Okay, so again, it's that double play of, let's do the simple stuff in the Queues app, let's do the really massive deployments on on Dynamics 365 Contact Center, and
Mhm.
everything in between is where the partner-led solutions come into play.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because that kind of gets us into this next topic here of, queues, about 30, 40 agents or less, Dynamics 365 contact center. We're going for about probably 1,000 agents or more, maybe a little bit less than that, but anywhere above that, oftentimes you can probably think of that as like maybe like a retail, large consumer retail, or maybe like an airline or things of that nature that are going to receive tons of calls. They need a lot of agent support. They're going to have a very large customer service department, but kind of that middle ground being the team's contact center integrations, or what flows from teams and tied with a contact center. What Microsoft Teams contact center integrations are there, and what does it look like within Azure?
Yeah, so that's another topic that we've been discussing this for a good year or two now, and I'm still surprised by how much more education is needed in the market, to make customers, channel partners out there aware of these different types of integrations, because they really are different, and they really do bring different set or flavors of capabilities to the space. So, being mindful that this is an always on episode, and we're not gonna make it too technical. Let's just say that we all know that there are the three models, right? Connect, extend, and the upcoming model, that's the power model. And
Mhm,
in a nutshell, connect model is your way of landing of, we have a context in the connect model. We have a contact center that's really separate from the Azure ecosystem, and we bring a call from the contact center into Azure over SIP. So a SIP call transfer, if you will, with the pros and cons that that brings to the table. But namely, a form of integration where the call originates outside of Azure, makes its way into Azure using direct routing, a SIP call transfer. Then we have the extend model, which is already a better or maybe a tighter
mhm,
integration with Azure, because the call here also starts outside of Azure, but you're bringing the call into Azure via Graph API, which is really, a Microsoft proprietary API. That means that once the call is in Azure, the media stays within Azure. So better, tighter integration in that sense. And then, of course, we have the Azure native option, what will be announced in the future as Power Model. I know that many customers and partners out there are asking, when is Power Model coming up? We are definitely part of a Microsoft program that defines this, but so I can definitely share that it's something that Microsoft is working on.
mhm.
Yeah, but yeah, it's taking some time, to define that model, and the exact services that are going to make up for that model. But really, that's a model that relies on Azure Communication Services. Okay, so
Yeah.
rather than if in the Connect model we talked about using SIP to bring a call into Azure, in the Extend model we're talking about using Graph API to land a call in Azure. In the Power model, in the upcoming Power model, we're talking about relying on Microsoft ACS, Azure Communication Services, to give us that interoperability with Azure, or namely with Microsoft Teams.
Okay. That's a great explanation. So it sounds like you have a bit of an inside scoop here. Um, can you, and you touched on the power model a little bit, and that namely being an Azure native integration. But can you talk a little bit more about what are the benefits of that, like from a more detailed level?
Sure. My favorite way of explaining this is, um, not too many people. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of, let's call them Microsoft geeks out there listening to this, hopefully. But I've come to realize that there aren't too many Microsoft geeks that are familiar with Microsoft IC3. Okay. So do yourself a favor. Once you finished watching this episode, go on Google and read about Microsoft IC3. Microsoft IC3 is the voice and video layer, okay, that powers up Microsoft Teams. Simple as that. Okay, so every Teams meeting, whether it's voice only, whether it's voice and video, is powered by Microsoft IC3. Um, the team that's 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 built IC3 and that's maintaining IC3 is Azure Communication Services. Okay, so basically, when you are using the Azure native integration option, or the soon to be Power Model option, you are using SDKs that give you this direct window into a IC3. So if you have a contact center solution that leverages that form of integration, for you, a call between a customer and an agent is just as good as any other Microsoft Teams interaction. And speaking of, a few minutes ago we talked about some Enterprise Connect announcements. So
Mhm.
in Enterprise Connect, Microsoft also announced the 5.9's availability for Teams Phone. So basically, when you are using that kind of integration for your contact center, that Azure native integration or the Power Model, essentially you're assuring yourself a 5.9's availability that's natively kind of sits there for Teams Phone. You're just leveraging the same for your customer experience interactions as well.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So some major impact and advantages. I know something we've heard a lot in customer conversations is the importance of the uptime and stability of the contact center. That being a major pain point. The last thing you want is if a critical issue going on within your company, maybe, God forbid that happens, and people are not able to reach your contact center. It's important to have that up and stable at all times, right?
Yeah, it's there's so much talk about AI and so on, and I'm sure we'll probably get here today as well, but get there today as well. But many of our customers, we start our spiel on AI, and of course we have a lot to offer around AI. So many of them are like, you know what? We'd love to hear about what you guys have to offer around AI, but let's talk first about uptime. Let's talk. Yeah, I mean, before everything else, you want to make sure that your customers actually have a way to speak with someone, even if it's not, before the fancy AI bot. You always want to make sure that at least the basic service allowing someone to engage with a live agent is is guaranteed, or guaranteed to the best level possible. And yeah, it matters. Reliability and uptime still matters quite a lot for customers out there, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that bread and butter of the solution that everyone needs and wants. That's the basis. That's the bottom line. We're talking about that a lot in this show in previous episodes of, you might be shown in a demo a lot of the nice to haves and things that are cool and very flashy and new, and like, oh wow, I could see a reason for having that, anything tied to a lot of the new AI integrations in a contact center. But how is just the basis level tech working? Is it on all the time? Is it going to do what it needs to do when I need it? um,
Exactly,
and making
exactly.
sure that from just the starting point. It's
And
good.
especially when we talk about customer service, right? Because I mean,
Yes.
we are all customers. If you call up a contact center and the line is not ringing, it's like
Hmm.
you don't want to buy from this brand uh, anymore, right?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. I I have an example of that. I know back in the day, my first job out of college was working for Enterprise Holdings, a rental car company here in the States.
Uh-huh.
And they were known for their customer service. The rental car industry here in the States is very competitive. There's a lot of different brands to choose from. Some are known for having absolutely horrible customer service, some are known for having great customer service. And I had countless conversations with customers saying, I love Enterprise. I always come back to Enterprise because the customer service is great. If anything goes wrong, It's handled for me. I don't have to worry about it because oftentimes renting a car can be very expensive, especially if something bad were to happen. You get in an accident, or in Colorado, you get a bunch of hail and there's hail that hits the car and damages the car. If it's in the customer's possession, it's they're essentially responsible for it. But knowing that you're renting from a company or working with a company that has a good customer service and that's what it's known for, you kind of have that peace of mind of like, okay, I can trust these people.
Exactly,
It's a
exactly. I
good
mean, I
reason
don't
to
want
buy.
to take us,
Yeah.
I don't want to take us too off topic, but like, I think especially when we talk about tech products and tech brands, you know, your ability to provide a technology edge in 2024 is limited, right?
Hmm.
Because of cloud, because of AI, it's, you know, it's easy to bring features. It's easy to bring new features in. I don't care who you are, whether you're a startup or a large corporation. Gone are the days for some engineer, really clever engineer that sits in a dark room and brings a feature that no one else can think of.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where the level of service comes into play. Because if everyone are delivering the same, almost the same features, your chance to differentiate and to really leave a mark on a customer is in that level of service. So yeah, couldn't agree
Absolutely.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. All right, so we talked about the impact and the advantage a little bit of the AI or of the Azure native integration. Can we jump into what should people or customers be mindful of when going with an Azure native integration within Teams?
Yeah, so again, we're talking about, you know, leveraging Azure Communication Services to integrate between a contact center and Teams. Um, Again, it's somewhat of a it's a pretty technical topic, but if we
Mhm.
want to keep it high level and, you know, general enough for our audience here, I'll say that just take into account, you know, in your choice of vendors, and there are vendors out there that either leveraging Azure Communication Services today or are working to work with that form of integration in the future. I'll say that Azure Communication Services is a CPaaS, is a communications platform with everything that entails. So the vendor, you want to choose a vendor that you know understand, that has good understanding of that ecosystem, of that platform, the different microservices that it offers, and yeah, someone that knows how to stitch these multiple elements together into a bundled holistic solution that holds, right, and that gives you the value you need. So you do need some of that, I'll call it engineering mindset, if you're a vendor that is looking to leverage that integration. And
Mhm.
if you're a customer that's, you know, out there and looking at vendors, you wanna feel that you have a vendor that understands technology, understands engineering, and understand, you know, what to make out of all these multiple elements, how to properly connect them together and turn them into a good working solution.
Yeah, absolutely. So down the road, what do you think the future holds for this type of integration?
So, I mean, we mentioned AI a bit today.
Yeah.
We'll end it with AI as well because, I mean, let's say it as simple as we can, right? When the tighter your integration with Azure is, the easier that you will be able to leverage additional Azure services as they come. Now, they do come, right? And that's, you know, we talked about goodies in the beginning. So OpenAI, GPT, all of that is really, you know, just the beginning of you know, many Azure services to come. I can tell you, you know, it's when we think about the speech technologies that Azure brings, when we think about the large language models, even when we think about something like, here's another example, Teams Phone Mobile, okay, enabling use cases for mobile agents, okay,
Yeah.
drivers, doctors, you know, users that are on the go, that
Mhm.
again also can benefit from CX capabilities. the tighter that you're integrated with Azure, the easier it will be for you to make those use cases available for those users. So it's just, if you believe that Azure is the number one cloud ecosystem out there, if you believe that Azure is the AI leader and will remain an AI leader, the tighter the integration with Azure you have, the more capabilities and innovative capabilities you will be able to bring to your solution and then onwards to your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's worth trusting. It sounds like what you're saying is it's worth trusting what is one of the largest companies in the world. Um, Obviously, they're going to have some of the smartest people in the world. They're going to have the budget to be able to continue to innovate and add things to, Azure. Obviously, one of their main plays and one of their main products that they offer to the market. So it's something worth trusting.
Yes, that's a great way of saying it. And I'll just say it's not one of the largest; it's the largest. Okay, and we don't see anyone coming close to that when it comes to enterprise, enterprise grade capabilities. So yeah, definitely a good card to put your bets on.
I love it. Giddy, thank you so much for joining us again. The second time. We love having you. Always insightful.
Thank you, and looking forward for the third time. So
Absolutely.
we'll do this soon. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Always on CXEX. If you received one thing you can use to improve your customer and employee experience, we'd appreciate if you'd like, subscribe, or leave us a review. If you're interested in improving your customer experience by using Microsoft Teams as a contact center, consider trying Voca for free for 30 days. Just voted the best Microsoft Teams contact center by CX Today. Voca brings to Teams the most critical contact center features for providing great customer service in the main service desk and departments beyond the contact center without the hefty price tag or nice to haves. Just Google AudioCodes Voca or find the link in the show notes. Thank you again for tuning into this episode of Always on CXEX. We'll see you in the next one.